Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Hoops with Noops, sponsored by the fine folks at FTN. I'm here to help you through all the games on the NBA slate. Of course, it's an excellent time to get signed up for FTN bets. Take a look at the ticker below. You'll see a special code, FTN March, all in caps. That'll get you 35% off any package from FTN bets. That gets you access to data, tools, extra picks, and of course, as I mention every time in this piece, and of course in the written version of Hoops with Noops, the FTN Bets Discord, a great community of bettors, handicappers, a lot of good content, not only from us folks that work for FTN, but handicappers like yourself. It's a really good community. Like I said, everyone is in there talking, and you get all my bets. You get them as quickly as possible, the best of the number, almost always a better number in there, because again, these things tend to move by the time you get to hear them here. And you get all my player props. I have to wait till we know what lineups look like and before games, so there's less time to write and put them in here. They all end up in that FTN Bets Discord. And today especially is going to be a great day for that because we've got a lot of games with a lot of contingencies here because I know, I'm sure that you're upset. There's no college basketball today. You have to wait all the way till Thursday. It's a shame, but the tournament will be back. Tonight in the NBA, we have 11 games, and almost by coincidence, the average spread of those games right now is 11 points. That's right, the average spread for all 11 games. That means for the 11 games, just about every one of them has a team favored by 11 points or more. That's the highest average spread of the season. We had an average of 10.6 last Wednesday. Again, we're at 11 here, and it's starting to move higher, even as we see some injury reports and some of these numbers continue to move. It's just a time of the year where the difference between the haves and the have-nots is huge. You have bad teams trying to lose more games to improve their position for the draft pick. Good teams are pushing as hard as ever, stretching their best players, pushing them to play to fight for playoff seeds and do well here. It's just a messy, messy time of year. But that doesn't mean there isn't value. There's a lot of games. Like I said, 11 tonight. I have a bet right now in one and several other bets that I'm going to have later. And to be honest, for the people that watch this, just as I got on here before, saw some injury news for one of these games that I'll talk about and not for Noops, but I do actually have a bet. So I'll share that with you as a little reward for those of you that actually watch and listen, because I really appreciate that. I do. That sort of support is what allows us to do all the great stuff we do at FTN. So be sure you subscribe to this channel. You get to see every video version of Hoops with Noops, as well as several other shows. The college basketball show, Mean Streets, where Chris Meany has been crushing the NHL season, not the playoffs yet. I'm sure he will crush the NHL postseason when it comes. Has hit several big player prop parlays, is really doing a good job laddering things like shots on goal. So subscribe to this channel. You get all of that as soon as it comes out. I would appreciate a thumbs up and a like here on the video. That helps me a lot. And if you've got any questions, suggestions, thoughts of your own you want to share, put them in the comments down below. I'll always do my best to get back to you as soon as possible, and it's a great way to interact. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always find me on Twitter at _Noops. You can see that down there below. Love talking basketball. So let's get to it. Let's talk a little bit of hoops here. We'll start with the first game up, the game that I do have an official play on. The Portland Trail Blazers go to visit the Houston Rockets. The Rockets 12.5-point favorites with a total of 225. The Trailblazers, just a mess. It's one of those teams where they've been bad all season, but not so bad that they're going to have the best chances possible for a number one pick. The worst three records in the NBA all have the same odds for the number one pick, and that's the best chance you have. Now, losing more games is going to help. They'll finish with the fourth or fifth worst record, and that is a decent difference, a couple percentage points between fourth and fifth, but really not much in the way of value for them losing or even really winning games. Now, they've got a bunch of young players, and it's good to push those guys to try to play hard, but it's all rookies playing with other rookies and inexperienced players. There is not a veteran leader on this team to teach these guys, to be a general on the court, to show them what they're supposed to do, to set expectations for what it means to play winning, good NBA basketball. Malcolm Brogdon was supposed to be that guy. I believe that's why he was not traded at the deadline. Portland wanted to hold on to him to not only teach these young guys what to do, but also provide some shooting, which gives space to operate on offense. Brogdon has been out for weeks. I imagine he's out for the rest of the season. Their best shooter, Anthony Simons, is listed as questionable, and one of their best players, veterans and shooters, Jeremy Grant, is listed as doubtful. If Simons is out, and again, I expect Grant to be out, we know Brogdon is out, there is no veteran leadership on this team, and there is little to no shooting. That means you're asking a team full of young, inexperienced players to figure out how to play NBA basketball together on a court with very little space offensively. Now, rookies and young players at this part of the season, they push hard. You're going to get max effort out of these guys, but I just don't understand what they're going to do and how they're going to be able to score or be efficient. That means I like the Rockets here. Houston has won 8 games in a row, and despite what people, including myself, thought when they lost Alperen Şengün, we expected them to struggle offensively, especially with Cam Whitmore, one of their better scorers, hurt as well. That has not been the case. In those 8 games, they've averaged over 125 points, and it's because of pace. They have the 4th highest pace since the All-Star break. Udoka has had this team running. You get easier baskets in fast break. You get easier baskets in transition. And even if they're not in those sets, you're creating a defense that is now already moving. They have to react. So if that fast break and transition opportunity is defended, they may still be reacting and not ready for the half-court offense in which Jalen Green has thrived, scored 40-plus points a couple times here, is really looking like the player the Rockets and everyone expected them to be when he was a high draft pick a couple seasons ago, someone who was a little maligned. He was a candidate to be traded at the deadline in a lot of conversations. Houston stuck to their guns, and they've been rewarded. He's been fantastic. I like the Rockets every which way tonight. I think betting the spread is fine. I make the spread closer to 15.5, 16, which again, it sounds like a bigger edge. When you're dealing with these big numbers, 3 to 4 points isn't as many. Maybe for example, the difference between say a spread of 6 and 10, that's 4 points, is not nearly the same difference as a spread of 12.5 to 16.5. It's just a little bit different in dynamic. I like the over here. Houston again, pushing pace, running up and down the floor. I have this total closer to 228, almost 229, but hard for me to trust Portland to do their part of the job, to score enough points here to get that total over. So instead, give me Houston Rockets team total over 119.5. There's a 118.5 out there. Was able to give that to the folks in the Discord. Again, best value there. But I'm happy to bet this even at a worse number, 119.5 minus 115. You can find that at DraftKings. I'd play this at 119.5 minus 120, maybe even minus 125. That's probably where I would draw the line here. Again, the Rockets pushing pace. They are without Jabari Smith Jr. tonight. He's suspended for getting into a fight in his last game with Chris Dunn of the Utah Jazz. But and normally, again, Houston would struggle without Jabari Smith. He has really allowed them to play, kind of a fast pace with a small ball center because he's been good enough. But there's nobody on this team here for the Portland Trailblazers that's really going to force the Rockets to play outside of themselves or really take advantage of Jock Landale, who's likely to start. I love the Rockets tonight. I think they score points in bunches. I don't think there's a bad way to bet the Rockets tonight, but this is the best way, in my opinion. Give me a Rockets team total over. Again, 119.5 would play this as much juice as minus 125. So some better numbers out there for you. Go ahead, grab it. Rockets should score in bunches tonight. Now, 10 more games, and I know it's always a bummer when there's 11 games, and I only have a pick in one, but just too many contingencies. It's always tough this time of the year. A lot of injury news coming in and out. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, one of these games I put in here, but actually have some bets for, just didn't quite get time to adjust everything here before I got started recording. So a little special extra free play for everybody that actually takes the time to watch and listen, as opposed to just click through here. So again, appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Just want to make sure you guys get something a little extra for giving me your time. It means a lot to me. Now, let's get to all these games. Again, these are the 10 games that I'm either not betting or haven't bet yet. And I just want to let you know why, give you a lay of the land and kind of what my expectations are and maybe my plans for something I might do with them later. Charlotte Hornets go to Cleveland. The Cavaliers 12-point favorites. The total is 206.5. One of the big parts of modeling basketball, and I always talk about my model and my projections, is being able to understand what your model is good at, what it is bad at, and knowing when to trust it and when not to trust it. And when it comes to the Charlotte Hornets, I can't trust my projections. They have shown value on the Hornets for the last couple weeks. They have struggled in that spot. They have not covered spreads. They have, even though they've won a couple games, 2-7 against the spread in their last 9, even though my model continues to show value. I mean, I make this game only Cleveland minus 8.5, minus 9. Generally, that would be a bet on the Hornets, but I think my model is doing two things. It's overestimating the impact of the defense Charlotte can play and underestimating how most of their offensive scoring and efficiency comes when games are already well out of range. Again, a lot of their points come when they're already down by 25, 30 points. It's already too late at that point to cover a number. So going forward, I'm not going to be betting Charlotte Hornets games unless I really love the other team. That opponent tonight, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they do have Evan Mobley back, but have struggled to score points without Donovan Mitchell, who continues to miss games. He won't be playing tonight. And I just don't trust Cleveland cover a score this big without Mitchell. Just cover 12 points, you've got to really score 115, almost 120 points, even with a total of 206 and a half. I just don't see it. I don't know how they get over 110 or anything in that range without Mitchell. So I have to pass on this game. And again, going forward, don't expect many Charlotte Hornets bets from me, which I know you're disappointed to not have to bet on the Hornets anymore. But again, my model it continues to show value on them, but there's something wrong there. So when I have more time during the offseason, I'll dig in deeper and kind of see what the underlying cause of that is, but just not rating the Hornets properly now. So we'll move forward. All right, this game should be canceled. This is terrible. The Nets are 6.5-point favorites against the Raptors. These are two teams that we expected to contend for the playoffs. The Brooklyn Nets had a winning record the Brooklyn Nets went to 500 in early December, have not been at 500 or above since then. The Toronto Raptors won their first game, and that is the only time all season they've had a winning record. It's just been a mess. Now, Toronto has more excuses. They had a light teardown, moved Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby before the deadline, two of their best players. They have been crushed with injuries here late. Emmanuel Quickly's been hurt. He's out tonight. Scotty Barnes is out, I believe, for the rest of the season at this point. There is just no talent left here. Whereas the Nets, it's just failure, up and down failure. They have had all their players for pretty much all the season. Cam Thomas missed a couple games here and there, but they've been healthy. They just don't seem to be playing well, and fired their coach at the All-Star break to see if they could reinvigorate the locker room. It has not worked. These are two pitiful teams. The NBA should just cancel this game, let the TV networks run a split screen of the other games that are on, and I think everybody wins. Don't even bet. Don't watch this game. Don't think about it. We're definitely not betting it. The Detroit Pistons go to New York to play the Knickerbockers. The Knicks 17-point favorites with a total of 211.5. I was ready to back the Pistons in this game if Cade Cunningham could play, but he was just announced out about an hour or so ago. Without Cade Cunningham, you've got a Pistons team on a back-to-back. Now, 17 points is a ton of points for a game with a total as low as 211.5, and especially with the way the Knicks' pace has been, this game could even go under that number. The Knicks have really been at a crawl, but 17 is just not enough for me to trust a team that played yesterday, lost by margin, will be without their best player, possibly their two best players. Jalen Duran also questionable and potentially out tonight as well. Detroit's just a mess. At the same time, the Knicks, who were great at beating teams like this early in the season, they crushed some of these bad teams. I'm sure you remember us laying big points with the Knicks early in the season. New York has won these games, but not by margin. Again, Thibodeau really slowing these games down because he's leaning on guys to play 40, 42. I think Josh Hart played 48 minutes the other night. It's just outrageous what he's doing to these guys. And the only way they can really stand up to that kind of minute load is if they're playing very slowly. So ugly game, which makes it hard for the Knicks to cover at the same time. Not enough points for me to trust a really bad team in Detroit. So we'll skip this game. This is a game I might be betting later. Again, we'll see what happens with the injury report. The Celtics, 10.5-point favorites with a total of 225 going to visit Atlanta. Drew Holiday is out. Derek White is listed as questionable. If White is out tonight, that is what we call a cluster injury for the Celtics. That means both of their point guards, all of their really good guards, again, Holiday and White, just those two guys, are going to be out tonight. That means it's a lot of Peyton Pritchard. Sam Hauser's probably going to be asked to play too many minutes tonight. That puts them in a really tough position, especially against a team in Atlanta that has a guard in DeJounte Murray that can score. The Celtics have been the best team all season, but they're finally resting guys here. This is a big number. If Derek White is out tonight, I might find my way to a Hawks team total over, maybe play the Hawks here, but nothing for now. Again, check the FTN Bets Discord. If you haven't signed up already, I mentioned there's that code down below, 35% off. Get in there. You'll find out if I do make a Hawks bet and when I do later. Washington Wizards go to play the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls laying 12.5 points at home with a total of 226.5. This is a classic game with two bad options. Should the Bulls really be laying 12.5 points? They've got a beat-up Caruso playing, a beat-up Kobe White playing, and they've been good at home against bad teams, but this is the first time they've been favored by double digits all year. Their previous high for a spread was -9.5. That's 3 points lower than this 12.5. At the same time, the Wizards are without anybody. Kyle Kuzma is out tonight. Tyus Jones is out tonight. They traded away Daniel Gafford. You're looking at big Jordan Poole minutes, which isn't good. Denny Avdija doesn't have anybody out there to help him. I can't possibly justify betting a Wizards team that has been good against the spread this year on the road with such a bad lineup here. So two bad options. I'm pretty close to this spread. I kind of think maybe the Bulls can cover this. Again, they've been really good at home against bad teams, but I only make this like a 10.5, 11-point game. Just a hard number to make with how bad this Wizards roster is tonight. And hard to trust, again, a Bulls team the biggest favorite that they've been all season by 3 points here. So I'll pass on this game. Phoenix Suns go to visit the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs 12.5-point underdogs with a total of 234.5. This was another game I was planning to back the Spurs if Victor Wembanyama could play. He was announced out just about an hour or so ago, so no real plan here. The Spurs of that Wembanyama have a pretty bad roster. Not as bad as that Wizards team we just talked about or what the Raptors are going to have tonight, but it's just not very good. The Suns will start the best player, the second best player, and the third best player tonight in Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. The Spurs will be outmatched at every opportunity. So although I think Phoenix continues to be the most overrated team in the NBA, without Wembanyama, I can't trust San Antonio, even at home here. So 12.5 is a lot. I don't mind a bet on the Spurs, but I just don't see any value with it now without Wembanyama on the floor. Now, the game I mentioned that is in not for Noops, but I've actually bet the Dallas Mavericks are playing the Utah Jazz. Let me actually update this spread here to what it is right now. Let me just double check. This line is on the move because Lauri Markkanen looks like he's going to play tonight. So looking it up right now, the actual spread, it moved from 8.5 to 7. I like the Jazz here. Again, I was worried about Markkanen's status. If Markkanen was out tonight, can't play this game. But with Markkanen in and Jordan Clarkson in as well, Utah has enough offensive firepower here to win this maybe not win this game, but keep it close and get over their team total. So give me the Jazz here, plus 7 points. Their team total only 115.5. I think both of those are excellent bets. You already got those if you're in the FTN Bets Discord. Again, that injury news just came out literally as I was hitting record here for this. So as you saw, I just updated the spread in here. It didn't even make it into the written version of Hoops for Noops, which is with the editors now as I speak. So a gift for those of you that actually take the time to watch and listen. Bet the Jazz. Give me the Jazz plus 7 and their team total over 115.5. I think we win at least one of those bets, possibly both, against a Mavericks team with the worst defense in the NBA since the All-Star break, on the road, having to play at altitude against the Jazz team that will push pace and shoot a lot of threes tonight. Give me Utah. I like them quite a bit here. The Memphis Grizzlies go to Denver to play the Nuggets. The Nuggets 15.5-point favorites with a total of 213. Denver finally has the 1 seed in the Western Conference. Despite resting Jokic and Murray in their game on Saturday, they were able to win, but by just 3 points in Portland. Now, does that scare Mike Malone and the coaching staff into not resting these guys? I don't know, but they're at home. Denver knows that their fans paid to come see Jokic. I expect we'll see Jokic tonight. They've been more cautious with Murray. My guess is he'll sit. And if that's the case, Denver can still win this game by 20, 25 points. But they generally haven't. If you go back and look, they have really struggled as big favorites here. I just want to double check. I looked this up earlier and got it into the written piece, but I want to make sure I get this right. They have been favorites of 10 or more points just 16 times this year, but are only 6-9-1. The Nuggets are when favored by 9.5, by 10 or more points this season. The Nuggets happy to keep these games slow and just win them. They don't really care about by how many points. Let's keep it slow. Let's keep our best plays hidden for the postseason and our players as healthy as possible. Denver could win this game by a bunch. I really don't know. I might end up with a bet on the Grizzlies. I'm waiting to see what happens with Desmond Bane. He's listed as questionable. And if he can play tonight, the Grizzlies have enough talent to keep this game close and push late. I also like the over here. So again, another reason to get into that FTN Bets Discord. Check the NBA Plays channel later. I'll put any bets I have in there if and when I do make them. Again, 35% off. Take a look down there at the ticker. My Philadelphia 76ers off a big win, a huge win, especially for any of us that have our Tyrese Maxey most improved player award winning tickets. We've been staring at them nervous as Kobe White has gotten closer and closer. Maxey was great yesterday, had 10 points in the fourth quarter as the Sixers upset the Los Angeles Clippers. The Sixers were plus 320 on the money line there. That means the market only gave them about a 25% chance of winning the game. They did it anyway. A huge win for the Sixers, but it comes at a cost. Maxey had to play 44 minutes. Tobias Harris had to play 38 minutes. I think one of, if not both of those guys will rest tonight. We don't have an official report for them. And I would like to fade the Kings here, but I just can't. Like I mentioned, the Sixers might be without their 2 best players. They're off a big upset win yesterday. This is a down spot for them. But Sacramento begins a 2-game series with the Mavericks tomorrow night. So this is the first game of a back-to-back. And against the Mavericks, who have the same record as the Kings, which means they're tied in the standings, just half a game out of the 6th spot, the 6th spot being the last place to get a guaranteed playoff spot. If they want to avoid the play-in tournament, They've got to catch up with Phoenix there in the 6th, and they can do it. So the more important game for the Kings is going to be tomorrow against Dallas, and the next game a few days later against Dallas, I believe on Thursday night. So could be a look-ahead spot for Sacramento, who can win this game without their best effort, but just too many unknowns here. I'm going to skip this game. Last game of the night, another game between teams that both played yesterday in Los Angeles. The Clippers, as I mentioned, lost to the Sixers. The Pacers beat the Lakers, in Los Angeles late last night in a high-scoring affair. The Clippers tonight are 6-point favorites. The total's 233.5. Both of these teams have really struggled with no rest. The Pacers are the worst team in the NBA with no rest. Let me just double-check those numbers again. I want to make sure I get you the right number. There for them. Oh, sorry, I thought I wrote that down. Let me just pull that up here on my model. But again, the Pacers, they play quick. A lot of these numbers have come early in the year, but even as they've changed who they are, they've still struggled. So on the second night of a back-to-back, again, games without a night rest, the Pacers are 2-10 against the spread. You're down 8.2 units if you blindly bet the Pacers every night they didn't have rest. But at the same time, the Clippers, one of the worst teams as well, they're 4-7. You're down 3.4 units betting the Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back. So bad spot for both teams. I do think the Clippers can cover this game. I want to see what happens with the injury report. If the Pacers maybe rest a couple guys and everybody plays for the Clippers, this spread should be closer to 8.5, 9. So might find myself with some action on the Clippers. Again, maybe lay the 6 points if it doesn't move too much, or play a team total over. Just nothing for now. Too much unknown. But that's it for the games I'm not betting. Again, as a reminder, give me the Houston Rockets team total over 119.5. Again, I'll play this 119.5 minus 125 or better. There's no bad way to bet the Rockets tonight. I just think this is the best wager. And the surprise secret play for listeners and watchers only, the Jazz. Now that we have Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson playing, give me the Jazz +7 and their team total over 115.5. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, all of your support helps. Any questions, comments, thoughts, put them in the comments down below. I'll get to them as quickly as possible. And as I've mentioned several times and will continue to, as long as we're giving this great offer, sign up for FTN. Now's the time. 35% off any package that gets you all the tools, data, content, as well as access to the Discord, where I'm always hanging out, talking hoops, sharing all of my bets. So now is the time. Get in there. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back tomorrow in written form, video form on Friday. More Hoops with Noops coming this week. Thanks again. Best of luck until we talk again.